And to start us off, to break in our evening of brilliance tonight, Pam Knowles. Woo! Pam Knowles is a former cop reporter and graduate of the Clarion Writers' Workshop. If luck holds, her storytelling show, Death 40 Foot Tall, will return to the Hollywood Fringe Festival this June. Ladies and gentlemen, Pam Knowles.
Christmas mornings in Cleveland, Santa's gifts were piled under the tree. Each had price tags on them, circled with a thick Sharpie. And that was just so you would know precisely how much this expression of love for you cost, in case you were wondering. That's my mom. Intellectually, you come to understand that this was simply her way of illustrating how there is X amount of revenue coming into the household, generated by the two people who, by the way, are not you, because all you do as an ungrateful child without a job is drain household resources to get you to understand the value of money. Because my parents came from giant working-class poor black families where the goal over the generations was to claw your way as close to middle class as possible. So mom was a secretary who eventually worked her way up to being an executive assistant. Dad was a paper hanger, a phone installer, a school bus driver, and a whole bunch of other things while fighting to become among the first black firefighters hired in the city. And because he's an actual hero, there's a day named after him there. Heroic examples: fire, building, 6 stories tall, dad's on the 4th floor, working with the other people trying to get the people out. Man on the 5th floor, panic, his building is on fire. Man jumps out a window, dad reaches out a window and grabs him. Wow. I knew right then, I hope I'm not expected to live up to that, because I'm going to tell you, it's not going to happen. But they fought for every little thing they had, from voting rights to decent jobs. And it turns out that what can sometimes happen from struggling so your children don't have to be deprived as you were, is you end up with a child who doesn't have to fight with anything because stuff she wants pretty much just shows up like magic. Skateboards, bicycles, woo! So mom and her thick Sharpie was just trying to make the point that there's no white man coming down to the ghetto and give you junk. I would. And we bought you that stuff because that's how this broken world celebrates Jesus. Because the other point she was trying to make was Jesus, who, in case you didn't know, is the reason for the season. So intellectually, got it, mom, got the point. But emotionally, when you're a child, it's kind of tricky to wrap your head around the idea that an expression of love can be quantified and brought to your attention with a Sharpie highlight. Like if you're worth $19.99 on Christmas, and your sister is worth $29.99 on Christmas, and she's your little sister. What does that mean exactly? On the upside, by learning early on that Santa Claus is a lie, you're being prepared to recognize all the other lies you're supposed to put up with once you go out into life. That's a handy skill. On the downside, you get beat up in elementary school all the time for the simple act of trying to lift your peers out of ignorance and explain to them that their parents brought all that stuff for them, not some elf made them under the command of a giant Nordic slave master. You can't win for trying. So what are you going to do? I played along, trying to give my oppressors what they wanted. I understand the value of things. So every holiday season, I tracked newspaper circulars and television ads in an attempt to get what I wanted under that tree at significant discount. And I had to find out what I wanted, when it was on sale, and where, and come up with a non-obvious way to let my parents, mostly my mother, know what to do. Now, this particular Christmas, all I wanted was a Millennium Falcon. Star Wars came out that summer, and I went to see it every day. I wanted a Millennium Falcon to go with my Eagle One transport ship from Space 1999 and my TARDIS from Doctor Who. They were going to sit on my dresser as a geek triptych to awesome. Now, like all conniving children, I knew where most of the Christmas stashes were hidden throughout the house. The stuff in my parents' bedroom I couldn't get to, didn't want to, because there was mostly clothes. Stuff in the garage I had a small window of opportunity to get to when I was home from school before they got home from work. But the big problem there, they would know I was out there because of footprints in the snow and stuff. But the back storage room in the basement, that was gold. I had to go back there all the time to do laundry. I was in the basement watching Houlihan and Big Chuck, The Ghoul, Trek, whatever 50 science fiction movie I can get to tune in on UHF and VHF back then. And during that time I was largely left alone, except for when Dad came down to provide DVD commentary on all of the Manifest Destiny of white people in space movies. It was a perfect opportunity for spying and making sure that they were on track, getting me what I wanted. Provided they didn't tape the garbage bags closed, because if you opened it, it would rip it. You know, twist ties are better. And I didn't pull anything down from the shelves that I couldn't remember how to return to in the exact order. I could easily get a hint of the glory that was coming to me on December 25th. Whenever I spotted a box of something I wanted with an on-sale price tag, I felt a particular surge of pride. But Star Wars year, I was back there looking at stuff, and I spotted a knockoff spaceship in a bag in the basement, and I just completely freaked out. Because what that meant was, even though I said specifically over and again, I want a Millennium Falcon, what my mom heard was, I want some sort of spaceship. And naturally, she found a knockoff toy spaceship on sale somewhere, and I knew it was on sale because it had 2 price tags, one of them in classic discount red. And okay, on the upside, this thing like had fake lasers in it shot. On the downside, it was not a Millennium Falcon. And what was weird? A TIE fighter was in that same bag. That's Darth Vader's ship. How could that woman get TIE fighter right and Millennium Falcon wrong? They are from the same movie. So I'm 11 years old. I'm trying to strategize ways to let my mom know you got it wrong, and where she could get it right, despite the fact that Star Wars stuff is vanishing all over the shelves and all over the city, and not pay top price for it. And I had to figure out how to do that without tipping my hand that I know that they got it wrong. And I'm like, okay, never give up, never surrender, Galaxy Quest, I can do this. So I start by loudly mocking all the non-branded spaceship toys and everything. Starjammer, what is that? They must think they're as good as Star Wars. Ha ha ha! I drew these really crappy technical specs of the Falcon in case they forgot what it looked like, so that they would have a general sense, you know, wider than it is long. Kind of looks like a wedge of pie or a slice of cheese. And I left them all over the house, strategically, so they could find them by accident. Then I just waited. So on Christmas Day, I come flying into the living room, believing that Jesus had come through to me because, you know, for me, because I'm the one who did all the heavy lifting for that non-existing person to begin with. And the orgy of unwrapping begins. And I'm like, oh, TIE fighter, oh, this is awesome, this is wonderful, I love it. He'll chase my Millennium Falcon. Oh, a giant Darth Vader doll that was actually a surprise because it was hidden someplace I didn't get to. And it was like 12 inches tall and it had a lightsaber, and like, oh, he can beat up my Millennium Falcon. Sucks, thanks so much. And then I'm watching the piles dwindle down, and I notice there is no box longer than it is wide, so that's good. That means you got rid of it. Awesome. And opening more, and I'm like, where's my Millennium Falcon? Opening more, oh, R2-D2, great, where's my Millennium Falcon? And then I realized it wasn't there. What I found out later at the giant family gathering is that several aunts, uncles, cousins, and all of their friends had blanketed the city trying to find the Millennium Falcon. Some of them had crossed the river into Parma. At that time, that's where all the white people went to ground. Contextually, that's the cultural equivalent of I went south of the 10 for you. They tried the hunt all the way from Christmas Eve, simply because that's all that weird child wanted, and she doesn't have any friends. But it was too late, sold out everywhere. Once I found out how far they had gone for me, 11-year-old me felt like the very embodiment of the most ungrateful bougie child ever in the history of the world. Suddenly I didn't care that I didn't get a Falcon. I made a big, huge deal over my TIE fighter and my Darth Vader doll, and I put on the socks and went around happy. And by the way, the TIE fighter and the Darth Vader had full price tag. And so that's why now, whenever anyone gives me a geek-related gift, I don't judge it, no matter how wildly off base. And this often involves biting my tongue because to you normal people, it's all just one big massive nerd, well, like anything. We're not. We have subcultures, just like the rest of you do. What the desperate desire for a falcon at all costs taught me was the quotient of love and how much it matters that somebody is thinking about you and tried their best and did what they could, even if it didn't come through, just for you. And so when I get a gift that doesn't work, hey, Witchblade, great, thanks. I'll say thank you and I mean it, and then I quietly re-gift.